Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 437, written by PaperTiiger. Emergency nail clippers missing. To start, I spend a lot of time at my desk. I mean a lot. Especially over the past couple years, and taking online classes and generally having nothing else to do. I pretty much sit here for an extended period of time every single day. I also have a particular thing where I cannot stand the feeling of having long fingernails or even having my nails extend past my fingertips. If I don't have nail clippers on hand, whenever I get the urge to shorten them, I pick at them subconsciously until they're a mess, so I always try to have a pair accessible. With that said, I've kept a pair of nail clippers in my right desk drawer for as long as I can remember, switching them out when they get dull and whatnot, so I can quickly just reach in and fix my nails without having to pick at them. I'm a little bit obsessive about my nails, so I'd say I'd probably use them at least several times a week, and since I'm always sitting at my desk when I use them, I always put them right back in the drawer when I'm done. One day, sometime in the past couple of months, I noticed my nails getting longer than my liking, so I reached into my drawer only to find that the clippers just weren't there. I thought maybe I'd left them sitting on the surface of the desk, or maybe I'd put them in the other drawer, but no matter where I looked, I couldn't find them for anything. I asked my fiance if he'd seen them or knew where they were, and he said he didn't touch them. Finally, I got up to see if maybe they'd fallen on the floor somewhere, or I'd taken them to the bedside table and just didn't remember doing it. But they were seriously nowhere to be found, so basically I just gave up and resigned myself to buy a new pair the next time I went to the store. I remember the next few days really sucked because I could feel my nails getting longer and I had no way of trimming them, so I just stuck it out and tried to resist the urge to pick at them. One day, as I'm just sitting there, minding my own business, probably watching something on YouTube or playing a game, I don't know, I suddenly just became aware of the fact that my lost nail clippers were just sitting right there in front of me on my desk, right in front of my keyboard. I didn't see them materialize or anything. It was more along the lines of literally just becoming aware of their existence. I know for a fact that they hadn't been on my desk the whole time because I searched pretty thoroughly the moment I realized that they were missing, and yet here they were, front and center on my desk. I showed it to my fiance and he thought it was really weird too, and we were both pretty much just scratching our heads at that point. Weird things like this seem to happen to me all my life, but this was the most recent and prominent instance of something disappearing and reappearing randomly. Wondering if something just likes messing with me or if it's actually returning my lost stuff. Case notes. I too am obsessed with keeping my nails neatly trimmed because I pick at them too if they aren't. They can get jagged, which is awkward whenever handling clothing. So you're not alone in that little tick, nor are you alone in having an object disappear and then reappear on you. Your experience is more unique in the way it returned, in plain sight. I find how you described it very intriguing. Not like the nail clippers popped back into existence, but as if your mind was literally not allowed to process their existence. Then a switch was flipped, and you were made aware of them again. Almost like they were always there, but the programming wasn't coded to enable interaction. Bonus file, written by cheapsquealer. The Ghost Bouquet. Hi everyone. To introduce myself and give a bit of context, I am a French wedding photographer and I've worked mainly along the Atlantic coast. I'm 32 years old and have about 170 wedding reportages completed. I'm not a strong believer in the paranormal, although I am very interested in the subject. It's something very far from my mind when I am working on a wedding report. However, as I read more stories, I began to rethink my personal experiences, most of which took place in the course of my work during weddings. The Ghost Bouquet. The first memory that came to me is quite recent. In October 2021, I had a wedding in a castle, and there had been a small incident at the start of the day because the bridal bouquet had been forgotten, or in all was nowhere to be found. The bride had to make her wedding without it. The next day, I started the selection of the photos on my computer at the time of the exit of the ceremony, where the couple went up the aisle among the guests. I was at the back of the room and I took photos of them facing me. There is a series of 8 photos taken from this moment, and on only one of them, the bride is holding a bouquet. On the 7 other photos, she has her hands totally empty. At the time, I didn't ask myself any more questions about this and joined this photo to the bride and groom in the selection. The bride phoned me almost immediately, completely taken aback, and asked if I had photoshopped her bouquet in her hands. Obviously, I said no, since I had never seen it anyway and therefore never had a picture of it. Her reaction made me realize how strange this little detail I hadn't really noticed before was when I thought about it. It's bouquet, why on only one of the 8 photos, when they were taken in a burst, so less than a second apart between each. Because the bride did recognize her bouquet, it was by no means another bouquet taken from the floral decoration. She also assured me that she was empty-handed during the moment. The discussion remained on hold, where no one had any explanation, and where to bring up anything supernatural would have been totally inappropriate of me. Kid's disappearance. Another equally strange story from a few years ago. The cocktail was in a large room because it was raining all day. At a certain point, a person started to panic because their son was missing. Little by little, all the guests started to look for him. Searching every nook and cranny of the reception hall, which was relatively empty of hiding places. The kid was nowhere to be found. A few men even left in the rain to see if he hadn't had the idea of going out despite the bad weather, but nothing. I would like to point out that the room had no particular nook or long tablecloths on the tables, absolutely no place a child could have been hiding. After about 20 minutes, I heard exclamations in the middle of the room where a crowd was gathering. The child was sitting idly on the chair in the middle of the room, absorbed in his portable console, as if he had always been there. His parents asked him where he had been, and the kid didn't seem to understand a word of the situation. He explained that he hadn't moved from his chair right in the middle of the room and hadn't seen or heard the panic and calls while the 120 guests were looking for him. On the other hand, 120 people did not see him in his chair for 20 minutes when he was theoretically in plain sight. Having been involved in the search as well, I'm pretty sure the kid wasn't where he reappeared. Again, a weird moment. Babies crying. One last, shorter anecdote to finish. During the wedding mass, church celebration, there was, as often, a baby screaming in the audience. The French churches, very large and made of nude stone, made the sounds particularly resonate, and the tears of the babies crying was frankly annoying. Being the only one who could move around mass, I looked a little annoyed at where the cries were coming from. There were not many guests, 60 people maximum, and the screaming baby could not be located. When going to the back, the crying seemed to come from the front and vice versa, and when I moved, it always seemed to come from somewhere else. People didn't seem to particularly look for the source of the noise, but I could see they were just as annoyed as I was, as were the priest and the bride and groom. As I walked out of the church, I watched carefully to see if any guests were going out with a baby, and none seemed to have any, either at this time or throughout the wedding day. Case notes. So the first story about the ghost bouquet has me most intrigued. My guess is it would be a spirit or entity that had been scheduled to get married herself, but died suddenly and wanted to relive the magic in any way she can. But of course, that's unfinished business that just cannot be solved. Very sad if that's the case.